land and making his way to Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories in Canada. Quick word on the Northwest Territories for non-Canadian viewers. This region is amongst the most sparsely populated in the world. Field brought along his 3 dogs, and as an experienced outdoorsman brought along appropriate supplies sufficient to last him through the winter. His last known sighting occurred in the spring of 2019, glimpsed from above by a passing pilot. However, given Glenfield's solitary nature, he wasn't reported missing until October 2019, nearly half a year after his last sighting. Despite thorough searches, including an extensive aerial survey by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in October 2019, no trace of Field or his campsite has since been uncovered. The RCMP continued to send out search parties until the end of 2020, but these searches were entirely fruitless. In 2022,
Excuse
Glenfield's
me,
brother
sir.
submitted an application to
I have
the court
nothing for you.
to have his brother declared legally deceased, which was granted in the same year. Despite this, Glenfield's
Thank
case
you.
remains open and is still being actively investigated by the Yellowknife branch of the RCMP. Theories about what transpired with Glenfield are speculative at best, largely due to the absence of any concrete evidence or clues. The environment itself presents numerous challenges, ranging from the severe cold to potential wildlife encounters, which could lead to various natural explanations. According to the RCMP, there's no suspicion that foul play was involved. However, from the evidence that has been released publicly, I don't see how foul play could be ruled out. I note that unlike numerous wilderness disappearances like this, I wasn't able to find any paranormal explanations for what happened to Glenn Field. However, I suspect that this is likely due to the obscure nature of his case. Oddly, despite the unusual circumstances of his disappearance, his story never garnered any meaningful attention in Canada. If you have any information with respect to Glenfield's case, please contact the Yellowknife RCMP office with information. The Getty Kuros. This suggestion comes from a close personal friend of mine who prefers to remain anonymous. The Getty Kuros, a statue purported to date back to the 6th century BC, has long been the center of debate over its authenticity. Purchased by the J. Paul Getty Museum in 1986, the statue immediately drew skepticism from art historians for its fresh appearance and other details that seemed quote-unquote off. Despite initial scientific analyses supporting its antiquity, numerous factors have contributed to ongoing suspicions about its authenticity. But first, let's take a quick aside to look into what a kouros actually is. A kouros is an ancient Greek statue type, representing a young, standing male who has apparently lost his clothing. Originating in the Archaic period, around 650 to 500 BC, these sculptures are characterized by their frontal stance, with one foot forward and hands clenched by the sides. They embody the ancient Greek ideal of youth and physical perfection, displaying stylized anatomical features. Each kouros, while adhering to a standardized form, exhibits regional variations in style and execution, reflecting the artistic conventions of different parts of Greece. Notably, the wide variety of what can constitute a kouros is partly what led to the controversy over the Getty Kouros. Technical analysis of the Getty Kouros highlighted both similarities and discrepancies with known archaic kouroi. While it adheres to the general measurements and proportions seen in genuine examples, there are a number of unusual features that have experts baffled. For instance, the Getty Kouros has asymmetrical ears, which has not been observed amongst any ancient regional variations. Detailed observations of the statue's motion, tool marks, and the marble's characteristics offered both evidence for and against its authenticity. For example, the statue exhibits a subtle indication of motion towards the right, considered a strong piece of evidence for its genuineness. Yet, Differences in sculpting techniques and the unusual application of tools raised doubts among some scholars. Archaic kuroi typically exhibit unique features that tie them to specific regions or periods. In contrast, the Gedi kuros seem to be a mixture of styles from various regions and periods, which did not align with any particular group of kuroi. This amalgamation of styles, combined with the immediate intuitive skepticism expressed by experts upon first viewing the statue, has been a significant factor in the debate over its authenticity. Interestingly, some experts felt an inexplicable sense of revulsion upon viewing the Gedi kuros. Yes, apparently slightly off kuroi can trigger an uncanny valley-like effect for experts. The origin of the Gedi kuros is also shrouded in mystery, adding to doubt about its authenticity. In 1983, Gianfranco Becchina, a Swiss art dealer, presented the kuros to the Getty Museum's curator. The statue, which was then in 7 pieces, was accompanied by documentation purportedly proving its authenticity. These documents claimed that the kuros had been part of Dr. Jean Laufenberger's private collection in Geneva, suggesting that Dr. Laufenberger had acquired it in 1930 from a Greek dealer. Notably, the documents included a letter from 1952 from a leading authority on Greek sculpture, who supposedly had authenticated the sculpture. However, the authenticity of the statue and its accompanying documents quickly came under scrutiny. Investigations by the Getty Museum uncovered several inconsistencies and anachronisms. For instance, the expert letter in favor of authenticity referenced a postal code that didn't exist until 1972. Further, a bank account mentioned in another document, supposedly from 1955, hadn't been opened until 1963. These discrepancies indicated that the documentary history of the kuros had been fabricated, casting doubt on any claims about its provenance prior to 1983. One particularly prominent board member was strongly against the acquisition of the kuros, as he believed it was a forgery on the basis of the inconsistent styles as well as the provenance issues. The controversy over the statue's authenticity divided the Getty Board of Trustees, with prominent board members resigning in response to the controversy. Once the most prominent opponents of the acquisition were off the board, the remaining board members proceeded to acquire the Getty kuros for $10 million in 1986. After numerous tests over the course of the 90s, the Getty kuros museum label indicated, quote, Greek origin about 530 BC or modern forgery. In 2018, in response to the overwhelming evidence that the Getty kuros is indeed a forgery, it was removed from public display. In my view, this doesn't close the unsolved mystery of the Getty kuros, but rather opens up an even greater mystery. Who forged this object which tricked the art world? The artist behind the Getty kuros demonstrated extraordinary skill and an intimate understanding of ancient Greek sculpture. This forger didn't merely imitate, they delved into the essence of Greek art, mastering the stylistic nuances and anatomical details characteristic of early Greek kuroi. The attention to form, posture, and the subtleties of human anatomy suggests not only technical prowess, but also a deep study of archaeological and historical precedents. The forger's work was so masterful that the majority of experts at the time were fooled, as indicated by the fact the object sold for a whopping $10 million. Despite this, the forger's mastery of the style was betrayed by minor anachronistic errors, which caught the attention of the most astute experts. This case really makes me wonder how many other significant art pieces are actually modern forgeries. Jimmy here, the YouTuber behind the Lazy Chill Zone channel. If you're enjoying my content, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and the notification bell. I've said it before numerous times.
Maybe not the notification
But my goal
part.
is to create the most expansive iceberg series in YouTube history. and I want you all along for the ride.
And then the Plutons.
Consider signing up
bunch
for a
in here,
YouTube
yes.
membership and joining the Patreon. Your support allows me to tackle more controversial issues that risk my videos getting demonetized. Also, remember to join the Discord community. We've got well over 50 members now, and the community is super active. Click the link in the description. The Curious George Mandela Effect. The Curious George Mandela Effect centers on the widespread, supposedly false memory of the beloved children's book character, Curious George, having a tail. The character of Curious George first appeared in the 1930s and has been a staple of children's literature since. The fact that he is often referred to as a good little monkey, and the general association of monkeys with having tails, likely contribute to the widespread belief in his having one. However, a deeper look into the character's history and illustrations confirms that Curious George has never officially been depicted with a tail, a revelation that
at least on her, and then I can NPC a bunch of that
This
crap.
phenomenon is a classic example of the Mandela effect,
I gotta
wherein
craft a bunch of that
significant
crap.
number of people share a vivid but supposedly
And
incorrect
then
memory
some of that I
of
can
a
send
fact
off.
or event. However, this Mandela effect has an
Received
extremely interesting
anything?
twist,
Nope.
which I'll reveal at the end
Send
of this
off.
section. Studies have delved into the Mandela effect, seeking to understand why such false memories occur. One notable investigation examined several instances of the Mandela effect, including the specific case of Curious George's tail. If anyone is interested in checking out this study directly, it's called the Visual Mandela Effect, as evidence for shared and specific false memories across people, and authored by Prasad and Bainbridge. This study involved multiple phases, ranging from analyzing how often incorrect features appear in common depictions to directly asking participants to draw characters from memory. Remarkably, even when participants claimed to be very familiar with the subjects, including Curious George, the inaccuracies, such as the non-existent tail, persisted in their drawings.
Shit.
In the case of Curious George, our minds associate monkey with the inclusion of a tail, leading to the incorrect assumption that George must have one too. But wait, there's more. Curious George was depicted as having a tail in at least one instance, albeit as a licensed comic. In the 1950s, a British maple syrup company licensed the usage of Curious George for their products. Note that Curious George was called Zozo at the time in the British market to avoid any associations of King George VI with a monkey. In this licensed comic, which you can see on screen, Curious George, under the Zozo moniker, was depicted with a tail. As this was a licensed usage of the Curious George intellectual property, it may be argued that this is a canonical depiction of Curious George with a tail. However, even if it is a non-canonical depiction, the existence of some media with Curious George with a tail is an interesting potential, quote, solution to the tail problem. That said, this is definitely one of those cases where it's necessary to employ Occam's razor. To put it in a logical formulation, even a caveman could understand.
Nice.
Curious George is monkey. Monkey have tail. Curious George have tail. The quest for the Tomb of Jesus revolves around a few key locations, each backed by varying degrees of archaeological, historical, and scriptural evidence. The primary contenders are the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the Garden Tomb, and the Talpiot family tomb, with the Church of the Holy Sepulchre being the most widely accepted and revered among these. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, also known as the Church of the Resurrection, located in the Christian quarter of Jerusalem's Old City, is considered amongst the holiest site for many Christians worldwide. Tradition, dating back to the 4th century, holds that it houses both the site of Jesus' crucifixion at Calvary and his empty tomb, where he is believed to have been buried and resurrected. The Roman Emperor Constantine the Great established the church in the 4th century, officially marking it as the site of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection. The church has been destroyed and rebuilt multiple times throughout history. Notably, the Fatimid Caliph demolished the church in 1009 AD in a fit of extreme intolerance. It was rebuilt decades later under the patronage of the Byzantine emperor and with approval of a subsequent more tolerant Fatimid ruler. The Garden Tomb, discovered in 1867 and located outside the current walls of Jerusalem, is considered by some as an alternative site. British General Charles Gordon promoted it as the true site of Christ's burial, citing its proximity to a skull-shaped hill, which he believed aligned with the biblical Golgotha. However, many scholars argue against its authenticity as Jesus' burial site due to archaeological evidence suggesting it predates the burial of Jesus by several centuries. The Talpiot family tomb, which gained attention from a 2007 documentary, is another cited location. Found in 1980, it was initially proposed as the family tomb of Jesus, due to ossuaries inscribed with names associated with Jesus and his family. However, this claim has been widely discredited by scholars who point out the commonality of the names and the unlikely scenario of a family from Nazareth owning a rock-cut tomb in Jerusalem. Further evidence against this is the fact that Jesus' family was decidedly not wealthy, and rock-cut tombs were unsurprisingly reserved exclusively for the elite. Despite the differing opinions on the exact location, the historical and spiritual significance of Jesus' tomb remains undiminished. Each potential site provides a unique perspective on the geographical and cultural context.
Yeah,
of
are you
early
getting
Christianity.
comfy?
While it is likely the actual location is lost to time, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre stands out for its long-standing tradition, archaeological evidence, and central role in Christian worship and pilgrimage. Also, in a future episode, I'll be covering a very interesting claim to the tomb of Jesus, which is so bizarre it requires its own entry. For now, I'll just say,
Excuse me,
it
chap.
involves Jesus getting off the cross and traveling halfway around the world to start a successful garlic farming operation. Does Yoshi appear in Pokemon Red and Blue? Back in the 1990s, it was common for kids on the schoolyard to come up with wild stories about how to obtain hidden Pokemon in Pokemon Red and Blue. While some of these rumors did turn out to be true, for instance, how to catch a missing No, a glitch Pokemon from the first generation, most were entirely false. One lesser-known example of this phenomenon is the idea that Yoshi appeared in Pokemon Red and Blue as a Dragon-type Pokemon. This rumor started in an issue of Expert Gamer magazine and included a guide as to how to evolve a Dragonite into a Yoshi. By way of background, Expert Gamer, abbreviated as XG because it was the 90s and everything had to have an X to let you know it was quote-unquote extreme, was published from 1998 to 2001. The magazine was a
Jesus
spin-off of
Christ.
the much better-known electronic gaming monthly magazine, known as EGM,
Definitely
and was
going to
designed
tackle
with a
that
younger
later.
audience in mind. In the April 1999 issue, Expert Gamer magazine provided
Fuck, I'm never
instructions
gonna
on
do
how to
that.
supposedly get Yoshi, and as usual for these rumors, it is convoluted and difficult. According to this issue, 2 copies of the game were required, Red and Blue, both of which had captured all 150 Pokemon. The supposed instructions are as follows. The blue version receives a Dratini from the red version. The blue version evolves the Dratini to a Dragonite and then trades it back to the red version. The red version then must head to the unknown dungeon and stand closest to where Mewtwo was and use a Firestone on Dragonite. At this point, the screen will glitch and Dragonite will evolve into Yoshi. Unsurprisingly, given that this was an April 1999 issue, this was actually an April Fool's joke. To make the joke even more obvious, The hidden Yoshi trick was apparently a fan submission by a reader named J. Esther. Quite a clever wordplay, if I do say so myself. I note that unlike other Pokemon-based rumors, I'm unable to find any convincing evidence that anyone ever believed that Yoshi could be obtained in-game. Let me know in the comments if you have any memories of this rumor or any other rumors surrounding Pokemon. The Wakayama Curry arsenic slayings. Masumi Hayashi, born on July 22, 1961, became one of Japan's most infamous criminals
Mew under the
after she
truck.
was convicted for a horrific act of mass
Meep, meep.
poisoning during a summer festival in 1998. On July 25, 1998, Hayashi poisoned a communal pot of curry with arsenic at a festival in Wakayama, resulting in one of the deadliest poisoning cases
Poke
in
garden
Japanese
behind
history.
Bill's house.
The poisoned curry led to the ends of 4 individuals, 2 children and 2 adults. While
I don't know what the
63
fuck you're
others
talking
suffered from
about.
acute arsenic poisoning. Hayashi's motives for committing
I never
such
played
a
any of the
heinous
Pokemon
act
games.
remain complex
TBH.
and partially speculative. A witness reported seeing
Your video?
Hayashi
Yeah.
near the curry pot.
I wasn't
And her
watching it.
access
I'm just
to
listening to
arsenic
it
was
while trying to
facilitated
sort
by
through
her
this fucking
husband's
inventory.
profession as an exterminator. Hayashi, an insurance saleswoman, and her husband were also indicted on insurance fraud charges for activities prior to the poisoning. It has been suggested that her motives for the poisoning
He was
were rooted
talking
in
about
personal
Pokemon rumors.
vendetta
Yeah, I
against
heard of it,
members of her
but I didn't
community.
hear what you're talking about, like in the garden.
She had
and-
previously been tried for 3
You're just talking
other
like a
attempted
crazy person,
slayings
weren't you?
by poison.
It's
with
over
the
there.
assumed motive in those cases being to benefit from life insurance policies.
That's my favorite way to get out of
She
trouble.
is suspected to have been
What the
jealous
hell
and
is that?
upset
And
at her
then-
neighbors for shunning her and her family.
You dip out.
I note that this is
It works
a
every
questionable
time.
motive, given that
It's like
Hayashi
I'm
had
surprised
previously
by how
attempted to slay
how
her
well that
husband
actually
with
works
arsenic
every time. I'm
to
just,
collect life insurance.
you know, you just
I just want to know
What the
sort
hell
of
is that?
logic is at play there. It's totally fine for
Oh
her to
my
attempt
God.
to off her husband.
you should try it sometime.
But it's
It's
not
pretty
okay
funny.
for the neighbors to not want to associate with said husband. The trial and conviction of
Alright,
Hayashi
you're done
were
with
marked by
stuff.
controversy and debate,
She's
primarily
done
due
with
to the
stuff.
reliance entirely on circumstantial evidence.
Unomas.
Despite pleading innocent, she was sentenced to ending in 2002, a sentence upheld by the Osaka High Court in 2005 and the Supreme Court of Japan in 2009. She has been denied the ability for a retrial on 3 separate occasions. However, as yet she remains amongst the living, the deed not yet carried out by the state. Hayashi's case has sparked discussions about the possibility of false accusations, given the lack of direct evidence and unclarified motives. Some have speculated that the neighbors hated Hayashi and knew that she was a dangerous poisoner, and thus attempted to co-opt her modus operandi to frame her for a crime and remove her. Under this theory, the individual or individuals who framed her unfortunately used too much arsenic, leading to the horrific results. In favor of this position is the fact that Hayashi had access to enough arsenic to end everyone at the Curry Festival if she wanted to. The fallout from
Weird
Hayashi's
flex, but
actions
alright.
has had a lasting impact not only on the victims and their families, but also on her own family. In another tragic turn of events, in June 2021, Hayashi's eldest daughter and granddaughter were ended by the hands of the eldest daughter. The eldest daughter of Hayashi then proceeded to depart from the land of the living by her own hands. Was Jochi the biological son of Genghis Khan? The question of whether Jochi, the eldest son of Genghis Khan, was biologically his, intrigued contemporaneous Mongol elites, as well as scholars ever since.
Nice.
The historical context surrounding this paternity mystery is complex, shaped by the Mongolian Empire's vast conquests, Genghis Khan's relationships, and the political intricacies of the era. Jochi was born around 1182, just after a time when his mother, Borte, who would become famous as Genghis Khan's primary wife, had been kidnapped by a rival tribe. Borte spent a number of months in captivity where she was, to use the terminology of the time, given to one of her abductors as a concubine, or secondary, quote, wife. Genghis Khan, being a well-known man of action, successfully rescued his wife, and a few months later, Borte gave birth to baby Jochi, the man who ought to have been his successor. Despite this, Genghis Khan recognized Jochi as his son, and he played a significant role in the Mongol Empire's military campaigns and governance. And yes, Genghis Khan, responsible for more human suffering than almost anyone in history, had enough humanity and compassion to recognize the difference between a father and a dad. Seriously, I know guys who've slain 20 million less people who don't get this difference. However, there is circumstantial evidence to indicate that Genghis Khan, while recognizing Jochi as his son, was concerned about leaving his legacy to Jochi and his children. The succession controversy that emerged later in Genghis Khan's life further complicates the issue of Jochi's paternity. During a Kurultai,
Sorry, Chad, didn't mean to bash you in the air. 65, 41, 39.
The issue of Jochi's paternity was raised by his brother Chagatai.
65,
as an aside, I'm guessing that Thanksgiving must have been awkward for Genghis Khan's family that year. This
41.
challenge of Jochi's legitimacy led Genghis Khan
Getting
to affirm
there.
his first son
31%,
publicly. This was a question of extreme significance. Birth order was a significant factor in determining tribal succession.
Okay.
Further yet, if he was not Genghis Khan's son, he would not be entitled to anything by way of Mongol
Bro, I really
tribal
need to synth
succession.
those out. I'd have so much more space.
I note that male birth order was not the only factor at play in Mongol tribal succession, and proven prowess in battle was also required to command respect as a successor. However, given his significant military accomplishments throughout Genghis Khan's campaigns, there can be no doubt that he met this threshold for achievements. Despite the clear affirmation, Genghis Khan eventually chose his third son, Ogadei, as his successor. This was also done to avoid further disputes among his sons, indicating the delicate balance he sought to maintain within his empire upon his passing.
Excuse me.
Jochi's significant territorial inheritance from Genghis Khan spanned the westernmost part of the Mongol Empire, primarily in Eastern Europe and parts of Central Asia. Notably, this is some of the territory that was previously ruled by great steppe conquerors of Europe, such as the Huns and the Khazars. Jochi's descendants played significant roles in the Mongol Empire's expansion and governance, particularly in the formation of the Golden Horde. The Golden Horde is perhaps best known at present for being the state that oppressed the Russian principalities for centuries before the Muscovites, quote, threw off the Tatar yoke. His son Batu extended Mongol sovereignty to its westernmost extent, with Mongol expeditionary forces briefly reaching as far west as the Holy Roman Empire. And as a quick aside from some minor skirmishes, no major battles occurred in the Holy Roman Empire, and Mongol forces would never again threaten this empire. And in a footnote to the mystery of Jochi's paternity, a study in 2019 compared known descendants of a Yuan emperor with known descendants of Jochi and found a close relationship between the two. As the Yuan emperors were definite descendants of Genghis Khan, this strongly suggests Genghis Khan was the biological father. Further, Borte was only kidnapped for a few months, and she gave birth a few months after being returned from captivity. If this timeline is correct, this suggests that it would be impossible for the kidnapper to be the true biological father of Jochi. Also, I've been wanting to drop a variant of this line since I started this. Genghis Khan, you are the father. The Wampus Cat. The Wampus Cat
That's a
is an
handsome
American
kitty.
cryptid derived from
Look
the
at those
folklore
back
of
legs,
rural
Jesus.
Appalachian and Cherokee
And that
myths
tail.
and legends. According to Cherokee legend, the Wampus
The tail's
Cat
gotta
was
be at
wanted to
least
harness
30
the spirit
pounds.
of a mountain cat to ward off an evil spirit. The physical description of the Wampus
Thwack
Cat
you with
varies
it. Just
widely,
thunk.
reflecting the various narratives and perceptions surrounding the creature. It is often depicted with glowing yellow eyes, a feature consistently noted for its eerie, piercing quality that contributes to the creature's mythology. Its body is generally likened to that of a mountain lion, but variations exist, including descriptions of the creature possessing 6 legs or the torso of a woman, accentuating its
that's
hybrid
very
nature
strange.
and supernatural origins.
Cat girl.
Despite numerous and
Six-legged
varied
cat girl.
portrayals, the Wampus Cat is always depicted as a figure inspiring both awe and fear. The descriptions of the Wampus Cat very clearly resemble cougars, also known as mountain lions or pumas, which were once common
I need to
in
get
the
some more water, chat.
Appalachians. Misidentification, especially under poor lighting or from a
So, be right back.
distance, could lead people to believe they've encountered a supernatural creature. Notably, sightings of the Wampus Cat used to be quite common, especially in the 19th and early to mid-20th centuries. These sightings have dramatically decreased in recent years, so much so that the Wampus Cat's name alone evokes a different era. Given that cougars are now functionally extinct in the eastern United States, aside from western cougars which have wandered far outside their range, this explains the sharp decline in Wampus Cat sightings. The Beam Me Up Scotty enigma. If I did interviews for this series, and I asked 100 people what character said the famous line, "Beam me up, Scotty," what answer do you think I would get? I'll give you a second here, but I'm sure if you know of this character, you've already got it. It was Captain Kirk in the original Star Trek series, of course. Well, if that was your answer, you're absolutely wrong. Captain Kirk never said, "Beam me up, Scotty," nor did anyone say it. Despite its strong association with Star Trek, this exact phrase was never uttered in the series by anyone in any canonical Star Trek capacity. Captain Kirk uttered similar phrases such as "beam me up" and "Mr. Scott, beam us up," but the full phrase was never said by William Shatner in a canonical context. The phrase's misquotation has not hindered its popularity. Instead, it has been embraced widely across
No homo,
different
chat, but I
media
love
and
nuts.
The misunderstanding surrounding "Beam Me Up, Scotty" likely stems from its essence being captured in multiple episodes without the exact phrase being spoken. There is no doubt that the core meaning of "Beam Me Up, Scotty" is found throughout Star Trek. Therefore, when the phrase "Beam Me Up, Scotty" entered pop culture and started being repeated by people with only a passing familiarity with the show, this contagion grew mimetically through society. Despite this, many individuals have theorized that "Beam Me Up, Scotty" is a Mandela effect, claiming that they absolutely know they heard Captain Kirk vocalize this in an episode of Star Trek. In my view, "Beam Me Up, Scotty" works so well as a general catchphrase, as it functions as a clear reference to Star Trek, which has been an extremely popular series since the 1960s.
It's getting windy, chat.
Imagine if you were attempting to use the catchphrase with a friend group who only had a passing familiarity with Star Trek, and you just said, quote, "Beam me up." There's a good chance you would get some strange looks, and you wouldn't say it again. But now imagine you said, "Beam me up, Scotty," and got some laughs or a positive response. You may use the phrase again, or one of the people who enjoyed it may use it themselves. In my view, this is yet another quote-unquote Mandela effect, which has a very simple and straightforward explanation. Also, by way of trivia, William Shatner said, "Beam me up, Scotty," in the audiobook of a non-canonical licensed Star Trek book written by none other than William Shatner himself. The Amishi people. These people, also known by several other names such as the Ezo, played a significant role in ancient Japanese history, particularly in the Tohoku region of Honshu. The first historical mention of the Emishi comes from the Book of Song in or around 478 AD, which mentioned the land of Wa, modern Japan, having a hairy barbarian king. Their presence and interactions with the Yamato state, the ancient Japanese polity, reveal a complex history of conflict, cultural exchange, and eventual assimilation. The Emishi were located primarily in the present-day Tohoku region in the northern part of Honshu, the main Japanese island. The Emishi were described
chat,
in
my kitty's
foundational Japanese
thrashing.
texts like the Nihon Shoki, with a mix of fascination and disdain, often portrayed as barbaric and uncivilized. These descriptions, however, likely reflect more on the Yamato state's perspectives and their justification for conquest, rather than the actual practices of these people. They are believed to have descended from the Jomon people, the original inhabitants of the Japanese archipelago. They are also believed to be closely related both ethnically and culturally to the Ainu people, who were able to survive assimilation into the Japanese state due to their remote location in Hokkaido. And for those wondering, Hokkaido, though now part of modern Japan, was only conquered by the Japanese in 1869, just after the Meiji Restoration. This interaction with Yayoi culture is evidenced by the presence of Emishi Kofun, or ancient burial mounds, in Tohoku, previously thought to be exclusive.
Can I ask you a
to the
favor,
Yamato
Lex? Can I give you a few items to give to my mule?
Some of these Kofun in Tohoku
Sure.
are now considered to possibly have been built by independent Emishi chiefs, rather than Yamato tributaries. The Yamato
Where you at?
state's expansion northward involved numerous military campaigns aimed at subduing the Emishi. The campaigns against the Emishi people began as early as the 7th century AD, but may have begun even earlier. Early attempts to invade and
All right,
colonize
I'm
what would
vibing.
become the
I'm here
Tohoku
at
region of
Port
Honshu
Juno
were
Home Point
unsuccessful.
or in the
Much
Clothcraft
like
Guild
almost
in Winter's
everything in
Woods.
early Japan, the early imperial Japanese armies were based on the imperial armies of China. Unfortunately for the early Japanese imperial state, they did not have the wealth of manpower to call upon to fight the, quote, barbarians on their borders. These early invasions were largely unsuccessful, with the Emishi people employing clever usage of guerrilla tactics and superior knowledge of the land. Importantly, the Emishi, apparently not
I'm
having
gonna go
access
stand by
to
the
stirrup
home point in
technology,
Winter's Woods.
adapted a unique style of horse archery, which decimated imperial Japanese forces. Notably, the Japanese developed their own style of mounted combat and horseback archery in response to the Emishi, eventually leading to the rise of the samurai class. While samurai are today associated with Nihonto, the various styles of Japanese swords, including the most famous, the katana, this intense focus on swordsmanship was an Edo period development. These early samurai focused almost entirely on mounted combat with spears, as well as horse archery techniques developed from contact with the Emishi. Further, the title shogun, which will be familiar to many viewers, originally referred to an individual who was assigned the task of conquering the Emishi or putting down their rebellion. By the early 9th century, the Emishi
There
had
he
largely
is.
been formally conquered, but just because they had been conquered doesn't mean they had been quelled. Emishi resistance continued for centuries, highlighting their resilience and the difficulties the Yamato state faced in controlling and effectively governing the region. By the middle of the Heian period, resisting Emishi were gradually pushed further north, while non-resistors assimilated into Japanese society,
I don't think I can do the ring.
leading to a blend of cultures in the region.
We'll give it a try.
For instance, many of the most prominent
Oh,
families in
yeah.
Tohoku
Hey,
claim
what do you
to
know?
be of Emishi descent. There are a number of mysteries related to the Emishi people. For instance, it is not entirely certain that they are related
All right,
to
let me
the
go
Ainu
log out.
people, as there are no
Sucker.
known remains of, quote, pure Emishi people. Further, the Emishi are a subject of great fascination in Japan, with particular focus on how long Emishi villages continued to survive past the Heian period. At present, it's speculated that remote villages
Yeah, somebody
may have
in our
continued
link
to
show,
thrive for centuries,
way back in the
before
day when I
eventually
used to play on
assimilating
my
to
original
general
character.
Tohoku Japanese culture. That
Somebody
said,
in our link show
importantly,
had
it
their
remains an
Kraken
open
Club
question
stolen
as to how much
by
of
a
traditional
quote-unquote
Tohoku
in-game
Japanese
friend.
culture is actually Emishi culture itself.
It's like, oh yeah, let me borrow it. I want to skill
If
up
you've
my
ever
club.
seen the Studio Ghibli film Princess Mononoke,
Never seen again.
the main characters are Emishi and have many of the traits associated with them. including proficiency in mounted archery.
Yeah, I'd seen a bunch of that back in the day.
David
That was really
Dees,
sad.
a 21-year-old man from Manhattan, New York, mysteriously vanished on December 13, 1982, and has not been heard from since. The circumstances surrounding David's disappearance remain largely unclear, contributing to the enduring mystery. On the date in question, David's mother reported that he was exhibiting paranoid behaviors, such as rapidly shifting through TV channels, apparently being concerned about what he was seeing.
Chat, my kitty
Around
is so
4 p.m.,
handsome right now.
David's mother reported that he left the
My
apartment to smoke.
goodness.
Despite having made plans for his father's birthday that evening, David never returned to the apartment. Despite exhaustive efforts, there has been no subsequent contact or confirmed sighting of David post-disappearance. Interestingly, after a large reward
Did I
for
need to do
information
anything
regarding
else?
his
Oh, I can
whereabouts was
NPC this
posted,
junk.
over 40 tips came in indicating that he was living in California. Adding another layer of depth to the mystery, some of these reports indicated that he was seen associating with cultists at a commune. However, some of the other reports indicated that he was involved
there
in
he
the
is.
illicit drug trade in California, again raising further questions without any answers. Despite these numerous sightings, none of them were confirmed. If you have any information
Let's
in
see
relation to
here.
the
Is
disappearance
that-
of David Dees, please
and
contact the New York
that-
City Police Department.
And that.
The slaying of Florence Keeble.
That.
Florence Ann Keeble's disappearance and
And-
subsequent slaying in 1976 remains one of Halifax, Canada's most enduring mysteries.
Alright, that'll be good for now.
On October 29, 1976, Keeble, a 17-year-old student...
Hey, you get it or it gets
reported that
NPC'd, so, hey.
Friends reported that she attended a baby shower the next day, followed
appreciate
by another
that.
get-together on Old Sambro Road around 1:30 p.m. that same day. The following day, her body was discovered by two hunters in a heavily wooded area,
Sounds like a you
approximately
problem.
350 yards off Old Sambro Road. This grim discovery led to an extensive investigation by the Halifax Regional Police,
Alright,
marking the
there's
beginning
that.
of a case that has spanned over 4 decades
that.
without resolution.
And
The Halifax
that.
police continue to investigate the case and have advised that they've developed credible theories of the case. However, specific details about these theories are not publicly disclosed to preserve the integrity of the ongoing investigation. Despite the passage of time, a $150,000 reward remains open for details leading to the resolution of Florence Keeble's case. If you have any
Ladies,
information
come.
with respect to this case, please contact the Halifax
But what are you
Regional
doing? Where are you going? What do you see?
The Gurdon Light, an atmospheric ghost light
What piqued your
located near
interest?
Gurdon, Arkansas, has been a subject of fascination and speculation. for
How
almost a
goes the
century.
grind?
First
Hey,
sighted in the early
good evening,
1930s,
Ace.
This mysterious
Z-Doc.
phenomenon appears along the railroad
Thanks for joining
tracks
us.
in a
Appreciate you.
wooded area near
Oh,
Gurdon.
hey, and we got a follow.
It draws
That's what's up.
attention for its eerie
Appreciate it.
floating glow,
It goes good.
which has been described
Um,
as blue.
We're just
green,
we're fighting
white,
the ultimate
or
boss of
orange,
Final Fantasy,
with a bobbing
which
movement.
is
The
inventory
legend
management.
surrounding the Gurdon Light is deeply
And then
intertwined
we're gonna
with
do,
the town's history,
A couple
notably
more
connected to a tragic event
macrocosmic
in
orbs,
1931,
and that'll
the slaying of
probably be
William
it for the
McLean,
evening.
a railroad worker.
Got work
The lore
stuff
suggests
to do
that
tomorrow,
shortly after McLean's
and it's already
slaying,
pretty late.
the light was first observed.
Yeah, mine was a mess
leading
other
many to
day.
speculate that
Need
it's
to toss a
related
lot
a
of
spirit
stuff.
in some
Yes.
form or another.
Yep.
Various theories have attempted to explain the Gurdon Light.
Yeah,
ranging from
inventory management is
scientific
definitely
explanations
like
to more supernatural
one of the
accounts.
final bosses for this game.
Skeptics and researchers have proposed that the light could be a reflection of
Alright.
headlights from nearby Interstate 30. However, this theory is contested by the fact that sightings of the light predate the construction of the interstate. Others have suggested that it could be explained by natural phenomena such as swamp gas or ball
Swamp
lightning.
gas,
The Gurdon Light
ball
has
lightning,
also
I
been
can
linked
believe.
to the story of a railroad worker
Swamp
who was parted
gas.
from his head in an accident.
even
the
though
light
one is like
purportedly being his
a
lantern
proven
as he
phenomenon,
searches for his head.
and the other's just like
This narrative,
bullshit
however,
hocus pocus.
is likely more folklore than fact, as there are no apparent
Oh, no.
records of such an
There we go.
accident occurring in the area. That said, documentation in the 1930s is not always available today, though generally an event like this would have been covered by a local news outlet. Despite various investigations and theories, the true nature of the Gurdon light remains a mystery.
Swamp
It
gas is
continues to
reasonable
attract
for a
both
lot of
locals
stuff.
and visitors, especially around Halloween, when
Oh,
the
responsible
desire
for
to
a lot of
experience the
stuff.
unexplained draws crowds to the area.
That's what I tell my wife
Make sure to like, subscribe,
every
and
night.
hit that
Oh, sweetie, I
notification
just
bell
think
for
that's some
new
swamp
content.
gas. That's not
Like
me.
I said at the start, I upload 3 to 5 times per week, and you don't want to miss any new content. Also, get involved in the Lazy Chill Zone community by chilling with like-minded individuals in the Discord channel. The link is in the description. Remember to check out the Patreon and the YouTube membership as well. Also remember to hit the playlist to see dozens of hours of unsolved mysteries content.
I've never
Shout
set
out to
off
my
the
patrons,
carbon
Kazak
monoxide
Cutie,
detector,
Kurt
so
the Squirt, Monoxide
I guess that's
Wendigo,
something.
Jeffer Metcalf, Z-Volts, Director Delta, Unknown Delusions, and Blasphemous. Also, big shout out to YouTube members
Fuck, dude.
Jordan
These
All
allergies
and
got my nose
Syntax
itching like
Nexus.
crazy.
Also to every viewer and listener, I love you
Oh
so
my
much.
god, it's just
Thanks
so
for all
bad,
your
chat.
support. I'm so happy to have you along for the ride. Until next time, stay safe and healthy. Peace out, everyone. Welcome to part 27 of the Ultimate Unsolved Mysteries Iceberg. In this series,
Okay.
we deep dive cases including true crime,
Okay.
mysterious disappearances, myths and legends, strange events, internet mysteries, and more.
Is my work here done,
Also,
noob?
I upload content 3 to 5
Am I
times
free to
per
go?
week. So make sure to like and subscribe and hit that sweet notification bell so you never miss new content. The disappearance of Colleen Wood. In late 2000,
Wonderful.
Colleen Wood, a
Um,
53-year-old
ladies,
woman who had
where do you
recently
think you were
embarked on a
going?
new
You get back
chapter
here
of
right
her
this
life in
instant.
Fort Lauderdale, Florida,
Thank you.
vanished under mysterious
All right.
circumstances.
Digidius.
Colleen Wood's life before her disappearance was marked by significant
If I could
change.
spell.
After ending a long-term
Or type.
relationship, Wood
Or
moved
both.
from Ohio to Florida, seeking adventure and a fresh start. She found employment as an office manager at Lighthouse Point Marina, where she was known for
So
her
what's up,
friendly
Ace?
demeanor and ability to
Z-Doc?
connect with customers.
What brings you here this
Colleen's
evening?
life
What
took a seemingly romantic turn when she met John Paul
what brings
Sr.,
you
a former
amongst
professional
our
race car driver, mutual
milieu?
fund manager, and millionaire yacht owner. What Colleen almost certainly didn't know is that John Paul Sr. had a much
CPN and
darker
watching
side.
some Final
He
Fantasy
operated
streams.
a large drug trafficking
You know what?
operation. In 1983, in response to one of his quote business
All right,
partners
so he's not
cooperating with the state,
streaming
John Paul
anymore,
Sr.
but
shot the witness.
we got
numerous
Professor
times
Crab
and then fled the
Dance.
United States.
Nice.
Colleen was almost certainly unaware
Cool.
that John Paul Sr. was still on probation.
Yeah, we're
and
just
had only been released from prison
we're not-
in 1999.
we're not
the year prior
CPing.
to their meeting. However,
We are
John Paul Sr.'s potential criminal
doing
history is even darker
macrocosmic
than
words
attempting to silence a quote
and watching
business
fucking
partner
iceberg videos on the
in an
YouTube.
illegal operation. In 1980,
And inventory
a woman named
management.
Chalice Barnett,
We just wrapped
who
that
took
up.
the legal name Chalice Paul, married John Paul Sr.
It's like an ever-growing issue when you're
Chalice
doing
Barnett
fucking
herself vanished under mysterious
BCNMs.
circumstances in 1981.
and you're
But
cheap
let's not
and you
get
don't
too
sell
far off
anything.
course. Again,
Except
it's a
for
safe
like
assumption
silly
Colleen
stuff,
Wood
like the weapons
had
that
no idea
have
that
no
the person
use.
she had started
That they're
dating
like
had such
some
a
sort
dark
of
past,
currency
as he
that I can
presented
use down the
extremely
line,
well.
or some sort of crafting
In the days
material
before everything
I
was
can
digitized,
potentially use.
he
Nope.
could easily present